The May 2nd, 2016 meeting of the Arundel County Council is now in session. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Peruka is going to start us off.
Let's pray. Lord God, we know that you superintend all things. We ask you to particularly superintend our deliberations today. We ask that you would put your words in our mouths and that you would put your thoughts in our hearts, so that in everything we say, in every decision we make, in every action we take, we would be witnesses for you and your precious, and the power and the truth of your precious word. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get into business, I want to talk about the important business, and that is we do have a birthday up here. And it is Councilman Smith's birthday yesterday. And I am still the youngest member of this council. I do want to recognize all of our elected officials here today. We do have Delegate Beidel, we have Delegate Saab, we have the Mayor, Mike Panellinis, we have our State's Attorney, Wes Adams, we have Delegate Malone, and we have some of the non-elected but very important folks. Dr. George Alatos here from the school board, Ms. Dawn Lindsay from the community college, Pat Nally from the school board, and Skip Auld from the library system. Thank you all for coming today.
President Stacy Corbett.
And Stacy Corbett, I'm sorry, President of the school board, Stacy Corbett. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the county executive. I do want to remind him to keep his remarks to 2 minutes. And our county executive Steve Schuh.
Today. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the council, thank you for having me to your chamber. I appreciate this opportunity every year. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the members of our senior staff that are present here today, including Chief Administrative Officer Mark Hartzell, Chief of Staff Diane Krogan, Budget Officer John Hammond, Director of Government Affairs Bernie Marzik, County Attorney Nancy Duden, Public Information Officer Owen McAvoy, Director of Broadcast Media Dave Abrams, Constituent Services Director Nancy Schrum, and Education Officer Emily Brandenburg. I feel very fortunate to have such an outstanding leadership team that works so hard every day to make Anne Arundel County a better place. I'd also like to thank my family, especially Dania and my mother Joan, for joining us here today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Last year, we set out an agenda for our county to reach its full potential and began working to change the policies and culture of Anne Arundel County. And I'm pleased to say that a year and a half later, we are succeeding. There were some disappointments along the way, but in the end, we worked together to change fundamentally the direction of the county for the better. The policies are in place. It's now all about execution. As each of you knows, the vision of our administration is for Anne Arundel County to be the best place to live, work, and start a business in the state of Maryland. Every employee of county government is aware of that vision. In furtherance of it, each of us is working to implement our basic 5-point plan for county government. Reduce taxes and fees to make it easier to live and to start a business here. Improve our system of public education by accelerating development of smaller neighborhood schools. Improve public safety by investing in our basic infrastructure and increase staffing in our public safety departments and offices. Reform county government by making it more efficient and customer-friendly. And lastly, clean up our waterways. With more miles of shoreline than any other jurisdiction in the United States, we are the water people. We have a responsibility to make sure that our waterways are clean and healthy for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. With respect to taxes and fees, it's important to bear in mind that despite the progress we've made so far, Anne Arundel County remains a high-tax environment by national standards. Maryland is the 4th most taxed state in the United States, based on the number of days worked to pay taxes. The average Maryland family must work until April 28th of every year just to pay the taxes. And Anne Arundel County has the 9th highest tax burden in the state based on the actual tax dollars paid per person. We are, unfortunately, a relatively high-tax county in a very high-tax state. I want to commend Governor Hogan and Lieutenant Governor Rutherford for their efforts to reduce taxes and fees over the last year and a half. They have at last set Maryland on a course to be more competitive with other jurisdictions around the country. Here in Anne Arundel County, we are doing our part. Last year, thanks to the leadership of Council Chairman Derek Fink, Councilman Mike Perutka, and Councilman John Grasso, we enacted the largest tax cut in county history. The fiscal year 2017 budget reflects the full $11 million impact of that tax cut. Earlier this year, we implemented the largest fee cut in county history by reducing water and sewer connection fees charged to new homeowners and to new businesses, which will pump $75 million into our local economy in the years to come. These reductions are also reflected in our 2017 budget. We are allowing more working families, employers, and entrepreneurs to keep their hard-earned money. And our citizens and businesses are noticing. Day by day, Anne Arundel County is becoming a more attractive place to live and work as a result of these efforts. And I want to thank the County Council for its support. With regard to property taxes, our budget reflects a nearly 1% cut in property taxes due to our revenue cap. This rate cut represents a $5.5 million tax cut to property owners. Our revenue tax cap is working extremely well in helping our county remain affordable to families. As part of our efforts to reduce taxes and fees, the Budget Office is undertaking a comprehensive review of the hundreds of fees that are imposed by Anne Arundel County. I expect this fee review to be completed no later than this fall, at which point we will begin administrative and legislative alterations to many of those fees. In making those alterations, we will abide by several major principles. First, any fee that generates revenue in excess of the program that it is intended to support will be reduced. Our policy is that no fee in this county will be a profit generator. Second, any fee that is no longer desirable or necessary will be eliminated. We're getting out of the business of nickel and diming our citizens. Third, all remaining fees will be reset to their appropriate levels. It is my intention that in the aggregate, all of these actions will result in a net cut in the overall fee burden on the citizens of the county. Last, as many fees as possible will be put on a formula or mechanism that will maintain their appropriate levels relative to the programs they support. This fee review has already yielded fruit. We've reduced the fees for the Senior Plus program by 50%. We've eliminated the $25 certificate of occupancy fee for new businesses, and we've reduced dog licensing fees and eliminated the spay and neuter fee for pet owners. In the context of tax and fee reduction, we're fortunate that our county is enjoying a period of improving economic prospects. Unemployment is now at 4.1%. Household incomes and property values are starting to grow at long last, and revenues to county government are increasing since most revenues are percentage-based. We're projecting that revenues will grow by $51 million next year. These circumstances allow us to implement modest, carefully constructed reductions in tax rates and fees while still providing necessary increases in departmental budgets. Improving the business climate in our county through tax and fee reduction is one part of the equation. The other part is business development. Our Economic Development Corporation, led by Bob Hannon, wherever he is, there he is, led by Bob Hannon, is pursuing a broad range of initiatives that will create jobs and economic opportunity for our citizens. Our budget reflects a tax increment financing, or TIF, district to support the Odenton Town Center Master Plan. Odenton Town Center is at last becoming a reality. I want to thank Councilman Andrew Pruski for his efforts to ensure all voices were heard in this process. We're also moving forward with a TIF district to support the development of a conference center near Maryland Live Casino that will enable the high schools in Anne Arundel County to conduct their graduation ceremonies indoor here in the county for the first time. I want to thank Bob Hannon and his team for their work on both of these critical projects. With respect to school improvement, our capital budget reflects the largest investment in school construction in county history. The new Crofton High School will be the first incrementally new high school in the county in nearly 35 years. We're also planning 2 replacement high schools for the old mill complex and another incrementally new high school in the West County region shortly thereafter. These 3 additional high schools will begin what I hope will be a long-term, multi-decade process of doubling the number of high schools and cutting the average enrollment in our county in half. This initiative is imperative. As everyone knows, we have currently the largest average high school enrollment in the state and among the largest average enrollments in the entire country. Research shows that high levels of average enrollment are inconsistent with high academic outcomes and vigorous after-school opportunities for students. These new, smaller schools will promote higher academic outcomes, more after-school opportunities, fewer behavioral problems, and greater job satisfaction among educators. I want to thank Board President Stacy Korbelak, Superintendent George Arlotto, and Speaker Mike Bush for their leadership on this issue. I can say with confidence that the relationship between the Board of Education and county government has never been better. And I also want to acknowledge Teachers Association President Richard Benfer for his hard work in advancing education in our county. Overall, in addition to these new high schools, our fiscal 17 budget includes capital funds for construction of 2 new elementary schools, Jessup and Arnold, modernization funds for Manor View, High Point, and George Cromwell elementary schools, and feasibility studies for Edgewater, Tyler Heights, and Richard Henry Lee elementary schools. We will invest more than $410 million in these projects over the next 6 years. I'd like to thank Councilman Chris Trumbauer for his advocacy for new school construction. On the operating side, the county's share of the Board of Education budget will increase by more than $11 million to a total of $632 million, including education expenses carried in other departmental budgets. Pre-K through 12 education comprises 51% of the county budget. Education is by far our biggest spending priority. I'm pleased to report that FY17 will be the second year in a row that we will be increasing spending for pre-K through 12 education faster than the amount required by the state's maintenance of effort requirements. The county's contribution will exceed that requirement by approximately $5 million. This increase is sufficient to fund a step increase for our outstanding public school educators. We are also providing full funding for the school system's signature Enhancing Elementary Excellence, or EEE program. Only 43% of students entering kindergarten arrive with the requisite skills. I applaud Superintendent Arlotto for his efforts to ensure that our children have the skills necessary to succeed, and I'm pleased to support his efforts. In addition to supporting compensation and the EEE initiative, this budget provides funding for bilingual facilitators, additional teachers for enrollment, and special education. Our budget also includes a $10 million one-time expenditure to address a looming crisis in the school system's health benefits fund. Based on current trends, the health benefits fund is unable to pay fully its claims by the end of fiscal year 17. This infusion of capital will help place the fund on a sound footing for the long run. That being said, the crisis is not resolved. Maintaining the long-term solvency of the health benefits fund is going to require additional actions by the Board of Ed and the cooperation of labor leadership. Anne Arundel Community College continues to set the standard for community college education in our nation. AACC is an institution that has been named Community College of the Year by National Business Alliance. AACC is also the first higher education institution in Maryland to earn a silver rating from the Association for the Advancement of Stability in Education. We will continue to build upon this progress by increasing our investments for our nationally recognized community college in fiscal year 2017 by $2 million to a total of $40 million. Our capital budget also includes funding for a much-needed new health, sciences, and biology building. This $117 million project will train the next generation of healthcare leaders. Together, these operating and capital investments will ensure that our community college maintains its stature as one of the finest community colleges in the entire country. I want to congratulate College President Don Lindsay, Board President Art Ebersberger, and their team for their outstanding work in educating the leaders of tomorrow. Rounding out education, our capital budget calls for major investments in our library system. We will be moving forward with development of new libraries in Annapolis and Rivera Beach. We're working with the Library System Board in developing a long-range facilities master plan to prioritize construction projects and to ensure that every resident of Anne Arundel County has access to a neighborhood library. Lastly, we are also in our operating budget providing a down payment on a 3-year effort to fund the board's request to increase the library system's materials budget by $1 million, which we believe will significantly increase patronage and circulation. I want to thank Skip Auld, Board President Hall Worthington, and their team for their tremendous dedication to our library system. I also want to thank County Education Officer Emily Brandenburg for her incredible dedication to improving primary, secondary, and adult education in our county. With respect to public safety, our capital budget continues to advance historic investments in our public safety infrastructure. We'll be moving ahead aggressively to develop a replacement police academy that is fitting for a prosperous jurisdiction like ours and for the public safety professionals who give so much every day to keep us safe. We will also be moving forward with development of a central booking facility that will increase dramatically the efficiency of our public safety departments and offices by reducing the time our police officers and sheriff's deputies spend booking suspects. This facility will effectively increase the number of public safety professionals on the street by 35 sworn officers. We're also proposing to purchase an additional 128 public safety vehicles during fiscal year 17. These purchases, combined with the vehicle purchases authorized earlier this year by the County Council, will reduce the average age of our fleet to 4 years, putting us in sight of our ultimate goal of an average fleet age of 3 years. Furthermore, we've made the decision to modernize our fleet by transitioning to state-of-the-art SUVs. We're also seeking capital funds to develop 4 new fire stations and to refurbish 2 others at a total investment of more than $27 million. Over the next 6 years, we will be constructing or refurbishing Lakeshore, Galesville, Jacobsville, Harold Harbor, Harmons-Dorsey, and Glen Burnie fire stations. On the operating side, we will once again be increasing public safety salaries with a 3% increase, faster than any other employee group. We're also seeking to expand the number of public safety personnel by 20 individuals, including 1 sheriff's deputy, 3 individuals in the state's attorney's office, and 16 police department personnel. These investments continue us on a course toward our ultimate goal of 800 sworn officers in the police department. I want to thank the leadership of our public safety departments, Police Chief Tim Altameri, Fire Chief Alan Graves, and Superintendent of Detention Facilities Terry Kokolis for their incredible efforts to keep our community safe. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge all of our public safety professionals for their tireless efforts to eradicate heroin in Anne Arundel County. We face great challenges in fighting this scourge, and while our budget continues to make strategic investments, the numbers of overdoses and fatalities continue to climb at an alarming rate. Fatalities are up 50% from this time last year. We're not winning the battle against heroin. We're committed to redoubling our efforts, and I want to take this opportunity to thank our school system, health department, Office of Constituent Services, and State's Attorney Wes Adams for their determined efforts to drive heroin out of our county. As part of our ongoing efforts to improve public safety in Anne Arundel County, I want to thank the County Council for authorizing the creation of a new cabinet-level position for emergency management. And I'd like to welcome our new Emergency Management Director, Kevin Aftung, to county government and to thank him for his great work during the blizzard on Saturday. I'm not sure if I saw him here today or not. There he is. He's hiding in the back. Great work, Kevin. I believe the county is more prepared than ever before to deal with emergencies, whether natural or man-made. With respect to government operations, fiscal year 2017 will be the year of government reform. We are deep into the process of implementing a comprehensive reform of our land use departments with the objective of reducing permitting times in half. And we've made great progress in furtherance of that objective. So far, we've increased same-day permit issuances by 22%. This budget reorganizes various operating units within inspections and permits and planning and zoning to ensure greater efficiency and a smoother workflow. I want to thank Planning and Zoning Officer Larry Tom, Director of Inspections and Permits Dan Kane, and Director of Public Works Chris Phipps for their efforts in making our land use departments more efficient. Our efforts to reform the procurement office are also proceeding rapidly. I want to thank the County Council for its recent approval of our proposed charter amendment to increase the threshold that triggers the cumbersome long-form procurement process. This reform will increase dramatically the number of smaller procurements that can proceed in a much more efficient way. This one change will reduce the number of long-form procurements by 325 procurements, or 46% of total procurements. Once all reforms are implemented, I believe these changes will save taxpayers nearly $20 million per year. I'd like to acknowledge our new Central Services Officer, Christine Romans, for taking charge of the department and to getting off to such a great start. In her spare time, Christine is spearheading an effort to inventory all county properties to determine which of them has a clear public use and those that do not. My expectation is that properties that do not have a clear public use will be remitted to the County Council as surplus. The county will no longer hold unused properties in inventory and tie up taxpayer money unnecessarily. Our goal is to surplus 25 properties per year. We've already made progress on this objective and currently have legislation before the council to surplus 5 unneeded properties. All of these reforms are the result of the more than 700 recommendations made by our citizen transition committees. I'm pleased to report that as of today, we've implemented 79% of those recommendations and are well on our way to implementing most of the remainder. Our budget for fiscal year 17 includes an 86% increase to a total of nearly $17 million for the Office of Information Technology to bring our technology platforms up to 21st century standards. These investments are part of a 6-year, $58 million overall program that represents the largest technology investment in Anne Arundel County history. When Office of Information Technology Director Rick Napolitano arrived, this is the sort of situation he found. Rick took me on a tour of our server room and showed me the situation on the left. Outdated, unsecure, and unsafe technology that kept our government in the dark ages. Now you can see the improvement on the right. Citizens may have noticed another impressive upgrade. We have a new, user-friendly website, and I want to thank Rick and his team for their incredible efforts in such a short period of time. They are doing a truly tremendous job. Our budget office and the Office of Finance continue to set the highest possible standards of government efficiency. This year's process went extremely well, I would say. And I'm pleased to report that our AAA and AA ratings have been reaffirmed by the rating agencies. In the most recent bond transaction in March, the financial wizardry of Finance Officer Julie Mussog saved the county $20 million by refinancing older uneconomic bonds. I want to thank Julie and Budget Officer John Hammond and their teams for their dedication to Anne Arundel County. The budget itself takes an unbelievable amount of work. Fortunately, we have a great budget staff, and I'd like to ask John Hammond and his team to please stand for a round of applause. Consistent with maintaining the county's financial strength, we budgeted an additional $2 million for the rainy day fund, which will take the fund to $60 million. This deposit is one more step in getting us to our goal of approximately $70 million. Overall, our budget calls for a total of 4,389 county employees versus 4,360 currently. This headcount is consistent with our policy of holding headcount relatively flat in county government overall, other than in public safety departments where additional investment is required in the face of tremendous challenges from opioids and gangs. I'm pleased to announce that this budget is fully structurally balanced for the first time in 8 years. In fact, we are in surplus. An efficient, well-functioning county government requires that the government reflect the people it serves. I'm pleased to report that of the 217 departmental and board and commission appointments that I have made to date, 21% of those appointees are minorities, including 16% African American, consistent with the county as a whole. Furthermore, 37% of our appointees are women compared to 45% participating in the workforce. Women are serving in county government at what may be the highest rate in county history. Finally, 39% of our appointees are Republicans, 35% are Democrats, 23% are unaffiliated. We welcome all ideas and perspectives in our administration. I'm also pleased to report that 15 of our cabinet officers are women, including Chief of Staff Diane Krogan, who's only the second woman in history to serve in this critical position, and County Attorney Nancy Duden, who is also only the second woman to serve in her position. While we still have work to do with respect to assuring appropriate diversity in all departments, we are making progress. I want to thank Personnel Director Andy Rhodes and Human Relations Officer and Special Assistant for Minority Affairs, Yvola Peters, for their many years of service to our county. Yvola has informed me that she will be leaving county government at the end of the year. Please join me in a round of applause for Yvola Peters. We are grateful for her service to the county. With respect to waterway improvement, our capital budget calls for $253 million in a 6-year program to support more than 300 waterway cleanup projects throughout the county. This is the largest investment in waterway cleanup in our county's history. These investments ensure that we will protect and preserve our more than 530 miles of shoreline and will meet our federal permit requirements. These projects include repairs to failing stormwater pipes, restorations of failing stormwater ponds, repairs to aging culverts and outfalls, and restorations of eroded creeks. These efforts, along with those of prior years, are having measurable effects. I love this next slide. According to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries hit rock bottom in the 1970s with a reading of less than 23. Since that time, the rating has improved to 32, and I'm hopeful that based on early indicators that the rating will increase later this year to a score of 34. I'm optimistic that we will see continued improvement in the years to come as a result of these historic investments. Here is one example of our efforts. This is Cinnamon Lane outfall in Edgewater in their South River watershed. Broken, rusted, disaster. This is Cinnamon Lane today. I want to thank Department of Public Works Director Chris Phipps for his department's determined efforts. Thank you, Chris. It's important to note that current funding streams are inadequate to support the full scope of what is necessary to meet the required reductions in pollutants entering Anne Arundel County waterways by the year 2025 EPA deadline. The future success of this effort will require a variety of changes from current policy, including increased state financial support, state authorization to allow utilization of existing alternative funding streams, changes in deadlines, trading in time, and use of general funds. Our budget for fiscal year 17 includes the allocation of $500,000 of general funds to the waterway improvement effort as a down payment on future general fund support to assure that we meet our obligations. We've already begun discussions with the Hogan administration to effect changes in current state policy to support our efforts. Please note that the administration will not support any efforts to increase the stormwater management fee. Beyond our 5-point plan, the administration is highly focused on improving the quality of life in Anne Arundel County. These efforts cover a very broad range of programs. We're asking the council to support a 110% increase to $20 million in the capital budget to support the Department of Recreation and Parks efforts to expand our network of bike trails, to open more trailered boat ramps as part of a long-term goal of having a trailered boat ramp on the north and south shore of every major river in the county, and to open more beaches for swimming. Fort Smallwood Park, home to our first boat ramp, opens its beach this Memorial Day. The Department of Recreation and Parks is also commencing a long-term planning process to open additional regional parks in underserved areas of our county, including South County. I want to thank Rec and Parks Director Rick Anthony and his team for their efforts. I also want to thank the many citizens groups, some of which are here present today, that work closely with our departments to improve the quality of life in the county, including our newly formed Bike Commission and Water Access Commission. I believe I saw Mike Lofton back there. Thank you for your work on the commission, Mr. Lofton. And is John Corrin here by any chance? Okay, he's chairing our Bike Commission, doing a great job there. These investments in such quality of life initiatives as bike trails, beaches, parks, mean little for those who do not have their health or who are suffering from mental illness. That's why we're asking for a 6% increase to $36 million for our Department of Health. We're also allocating more than $2 million in our capital budget for the much-needed Severn Health and Wellness Center. I want to thank Councilman Pete Smith for his tireless efforts to make this project a reality. These investments will support traditional health initiatives as well as expanded treatment options for those suffering from addiction. I'd like to acknowledge Health Officer Dr. Jinlene Chan, Mental Health Agency Executive Director Adrian Michler, and their teams for all their efforts. One measure of a civilized society is how it treats those most in need. That's why this budget includes $5.2 million for our Department of Social Services, an increase of 4%. These investments will help support child care initiatives, adoption services, and community initiatives like Homeless Resource Day. I want to thank DSS Director Carnitra White and her team for their incredible efforts throughout the year. For many of our citizens, a better quality of life means a better job prospects. That's why we're continuing our commitment to funding our Workforce Development Corporation with nearly $3 million investment. This year, Kirk Murray and his team will provide job training services to more than 1,200 citizens. Thank you, Kirk. We owe a debt of gratitude to our seniors. They are the people that built our county and made it the wonderful place that it is today. We're proposing to increase spending in our Department of Aging and Disabilities by 3% to $10 million. We're also proposing more than $820,000 in capital improvements to the Brooklyn Park Senior Center. I'd like to thank Pam Jordan and her team for their efforts to improve the quality of life for people facing the challenges of old age and disabilities in our county. Some of our citizens live in the county's 7 public housing communities. Several of the communities are over 40 years old and are in need of revitalization. We're working with the Housing Commission to develop creative ways to redevelop these communities through public-private partnerships, both to improve the quality of housing and to introduce market rate units to create mixed-income communities where people can thrive. I want to commend Housing Commission CEO Cliff Martin and the commissioners for their efforts to help people acquire the skills they need to leave, eventually, public housing and become independent. To assist in the Commission's efforts to help people become independent, our budget includes a $215,000 increase in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. This program focuses on reducing poverty and establishing goals and plans for families to reduce their need for deeply subsidized housing. This is the first time the county has ever committed general funds to this critical project and will double the program budget. I also want to acknowledge Executive Director Kathy Koch of Arundel Community Development Services for her efforts to redirect our housing grant resources to the most needy members of our county. A good quality of life requires basic infrastructure, including sewage treatment, solid waste management, and the treatment of drinking water. We've followed what has happened in Flint, Michigan, and other jurisdictions as they struggle with the basic responsibility of delivering clean water to their citizens. Here in Anne Arundel County, I'm pleased to report that we have excellent water quality and state-of-the-art water treatment infrastructure. The county has been sampling its water system for years to detect lead and has not encountered any significant levels. Our preventative and proactive measures regarding the presence of lead in the water system include protective treatment methods and replacement of aged galvanized pipe. We're confident that these programs have been successful in assuring that the county's water system and our customers are not exposed to harmful levels of lead. We will continue with our commitment to superior water quality by investing more than $148 million in water system upgrades, including $25 million to replace aged water pipe infrastructure over the next 6 years. Some of our citizens are trapped in a dozen or so atrocious hotels in Anne Arundel County that prey on people who are suffering from poverty, addiction, or human trafficking. I want to thank the County Council for granting us expanded authority to regulate, inspect, and close these awful places. I'm pleased to report that this effort is working. On March 22nd of this year, we suspended the license of the Royal Inn in Odenton. To their credit, the owners responded by fumigating, renovating, and refurbishing the entire hotel. We welcome them back to our community of responsible business owners. I also want to thank Pam Brown and her team at the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families and our friends at United Way of Central Maryland for their efforts to find alternative housing for these suffering families. A superior quality of life also requires that we provide excellent roads and transportation to our citizens to travel to home, work, shopping, and recreation. For the second year in a row, we are proposing to maintain our stepped-up levels of road maintenance, investing nearly $26 million in fiscal 17 alone. We are also proposing to invest nearly $23 million over the next 6 years for the long-awaited and much-needed revitalization of Mountain Road in Pasadena to assure that this vital artery of our county can fulfill its economic potential. In addition, our budget secures funding for 7 critical bridge projects in our county, including nearly $1 million for Governor's Bridge over the Patuxent. Our budget also establishes the new position of Transportation Officer to manage our various disconnected transportation assets, including the Regional Transportation Authority with Howard County, Paratransit, and Tipton Airport. This new officer will serve also as a liaison with our critical transportation partners at the State Highway Administration, Maryland Transit Administration, BWI Thurgood Marshall International Airport, the Port of Baltimore, Annapolis Transit, and Amtrak. Finally, I want to express my disappointment with the General Assembly for its actions to reduce local government's input into state transportation priorities and its failure to approve Governor Hogan's proposal to increase state support for local road construction. These funds are critical to improving our system of roads. When it comes to quality of life, we must acknowledge the incredible work by our team of constituent services officers led by Nancy Schrum. The office fields 2,000 constituent inquiries of every imaginable sort over the course of each and every year, usually with a satisfactory outcome for the constituents. They've also been instrumental in raising awareness in our fight against heroin through their Not My Child education program. By helping share others' stories of addiction, Nancy and her team have educated students and parents across our county. Thank you for all of your efforts. So to close, Anne Arundel County is in a good place. I believe the right strategy is now underway to enable our county to reach its full potential. and to be the best place to live, work, and start a business in the state of Maryland. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you. I just noticed that a very special person has joined us, Speaker of the House, Mike Bush. Thank you for being here, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, County Executive. The council will recess and reconvene at 1 o'clock.